Pleased to be joined this morning by Michael Fields. Michael Fields is Executive Director of Colorado Rising Action, was formerly the State Director for Americans for Prosperity. Michael, it's been a while.
It has. Good to be on with you.
Yes, and it's good to talk with you once again. So, okay, just to set the record straight so folks aren't confused, Colorado Rising Action, it's a conservative advocacy group, not to be confused with Colorado Rising, correct?
That's right. That's correct. Colorado Rising is pushing the anti-fracking setback measure. We are pushing conservative issues. We do tracking. We do research, we do communications, all pushing for, conservative policies that we think work for Colorado.
And at some point, I want to get you back on and talk a little bit about Prop 112, which is
Sure.
absolutely devastating, particularly for Weld County. Weld County, of course, the bulk of the state's oil and gas production. You could call it the epicenter of our gas and oil and gas industry in Colorado.
Yeah, it's an important issue. We'd love to come back on and talk about that one, too.
Good deal. All right, so let's bat around Amendment 73. It's complicated, and it's easy to get lost in the weeds on this one. So I'm going to ask you to just kind of break it down for us.
Sure. So it's a $1.6 billion tax hike per year, and basically it would tier our tax system. Currently, we sit at 4.63 across the board, and it would make it so that taxes would go up for people that make $150,000 or more, up to $500,000. If a family makes $500,000, they're going to be paying 78% more in state taxes than you are now. But it also makes some adjustments to property taxes. The corporate tax rate would go up 30%. And so it all amounts to $1.6 billion that would go back into our education system. The problem with it is basically what you're saying is our education system's doing a good job with the money they have now, and therefore we should give more. And I just don't think that's the case. And there's a lot of issues with our current system. Only 53% of the money that we do spend on education goes to instruction to start out with. So I agree that teachers should get paid more, but we need to fix, the current system that we have before going back to voters and asking for more money.
Well, and my issue with it is, first of all, I don't like constitutional amendments to begin with, and B, I'm questioning the accountability of this amendment because, once again, it goes into that broad brush category of supporting public education across the state, but there's no specificity.
Well, if you're going to ask for $1.6 billion, you would think, one, that there would be some kind of accountability in saying student achievement is going to go up by X amount, or we are guaranteeing that, students are going to learn more because of this. There's no guarantee there, and there's no guarantee in where that money actually goes. So some districts are coming out and saying, we're going to spend, a lot of this money on teachers. There's no, it's not specific at all. It basically is a blank check that you're handing over in a state where we want accountability for the money that we're going to be spending on stuff. And I think they look at it and say, look, our pension system, is still out of control. We're spending 21% of salaries on our pension system. Our administrative costs are higher than the average state. So over the last decade, students have gone up 6%, teachers have gone up 8%, administration 34%. Until we get administrative costs under control, I don't think that people are going to approve a massive tax hike that could affect the economy in a negative way.
Let's get into how this affects Gallagher, because my understanding is, and I'm working from a piece by Linda Gorman out of the Independence Institute, that Amendment 73 would effectively end protections against continuous increases in residential property taxes.
Yes, so it's Gallagher is very complicated, but basically, I think the gist of it is saying assessment rates were planned to go down from the current rate, which is 7.2% on residential, to 6.1%, and this would freeze, that assessment rate on the education side at 7%. So basically, they're counting that as a tax, a tax cut. When actually it's a tax increase because the assessment rate is going to go down by a greater percentage, if not stopped by this. So Gallagher is very complicated, but basically your residential tax rate was going to go down, and they're going to freeze it at a higher rate. And so it impacts everybody in that route. And the corporate tax rate, moving that corporate tax rate up by 30% on the state level impacts all of us as consumers. We know that gets passed on to us, and that's just dealing with companies that are C corps. LLCs, S corps, they're going to be taxed at that higher rate if they're bringing in more money, which is really going to hurt small businesses. It's really going to hurt our economy in general.
Let's talk about the dangers of locking increased spending into the state constitution.
Well, I mean, it ties our hands. A lot of people complain about what Gallagher did and what Tabor does and different stuff. I'm a big fan of Tabor, but the more things that you put into the Constitution and lock it in, the harder it is to make adjustments. Right. And so, and for more or less, I mean, the argument that I make is, look, if we're going to prioritize education spending, we have legislators down there that can go and do that right now, right? They gave an extra $150 million on top of inflation last year into the education system because the money was there and they wanted to do it. And so let's have that conversation. If they want more money in education, that happens, but it has to come from somewhere else in that general budget. And so, the other argument I make, though, is they gave $150 million to the education system. Do you really think that each teacher got a $3,000 raise?
Right.
We have 50,000 teachers. That didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And the promise to say that this is going to go into teacher pay, people just don't believe it because it's not happening right now.
Well, and the other thing that we all need to remember is, my understanding is, teacher pay not determined by the state. It is determined by individual school boards.
That's right. And that's why you see, local taxes can go up. Bill levy increases. You were talking about what was going on. They just passed one up where you are.
Right.
People like accountability, and they like to be able to deal with their district, face to face. And when you say, statewide, we're going to dump this money in, you have to pay for it, and we know what we're doing. We'll spread it out accordingly. People don't believe that, and so that's why you see more success on the local level because of that accountability piece. And teacher pay is set at the district level, and people should be holding their districts accountable to how much money is going to administration and how much money is going into the classroom.
Michael, given how complex this amendment is with the tentacles into Tabor and into Gallagher, do you think most folks really understand the implications of it? Because my concern is, as with many issues, we are addressing the uninformed voter that will vote with their heart and not their head.
I think that's possible, but I think you have a track record in Colorado of statewide tax increases going down. They tried to do $1 billion tax hike in 2011 and 2013. Both of those, lost by a 2-to-1 margin. I think the problem that you have with Amendment 73 right now is there's so many other things going on that it's hard. This one could fly under the radar. You have the setbacks one we were talking about. You have the governor's race. You have an attorney general's race. You have all kinds of stuff on the ballot. But it's possible that, that people just aren't as informed about it. And that's why groups like ours are going out there, Ready Colorado, some other great groups that are going, kind of making the rounds, talking about why this is important, how this could affect our economy, and why it's a bad idea.
Just in a broad brush approach, Colorado long been going purple. Are we tilting blue?
We'll see. I mean, we'll see, later, in a month now ballots go out. It's a little less. I think, we do have some representatives, Cory Gardner's, a U.S. Senator. We have, the Treasurer's office, the AG's office, a lot of these, Congress, we have several people. I think we'll see. I mean, I think on ballot issues, you definitely see a conservative tilt, and I think you will this year again. I think the transportation tax hike, I think, will go down in favor of, the other one that tells you to take the money out of the budget.
Fix our damn roads. Yeah.
Yeah. People want the roads fixed for sure. And I think this one will go down, and I think setbacks will go down. But we're going to see, it is a state where Trump's approval rating isn't very high right now. Does that have a backlash against some of the other candidates, or do they split it up and say, we know Mike Kaufman, or we know, Walker Stapleton, and that's different? I don't know. But there's definitely concern. I mean, the left has built up a huge infrastructure in the state over years and years. Jared Polis was doing this 15 years ago to set himself up to run for governor. We have to have the right unified, to make a comeback to make sure that the left doesn't take over totally.
Michael, always appreciate your perspectives, your insights. Where do we find out more about Colorado Rising Action?
So ColoradoRisingAction.org is our website. We're on Twitter, Facebook, everything else. Love if you guys would follow us, and I'd love to do that time to talk about, the stuff that's 112 and how important that one is.
You've got it, my friend. Michael Fields, Executive Director, Colorado Rising Action. 8:19 now.